Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome to Flying Casual, an all Star Wars podcast built on hope for all Star Wars fans. I think that may be my best introduction ever. It's not a slogan. Maybe it should be a slogan. I don't think we have a slogan. Well, we have a slogan.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it's just not the most appropriate slogan
Okay, so
to promote.
Flying
yeah.
Casual, built on hope. It kind of reminds me of the Dunkin' Donuts slogan.
Well, here's the thing. It says built on hope, and below it, it has an actual, like, drawn penis with one of those just, like cancel signs over it.
You mean the circle with the line through
Yeah,
it?
I don't know what that's called. We prohibit penises in this realm. But we do. Don't be a dick. And this podcast is built on hope. I don't know. Maybe we'll trademark it. I have no idea.
TM.
But guys, welcome to this is our second week in 2021. Feels good. You know, the world is still ablaze, but you know, there's some hope. And we talked about that last episode. So I am just riding on that hope.
Yeah. It's like my good friend Barack Obama said.
Oh.
In 2016, the sun will rise tomorrow.
Yeah. If you're friends with Barack Obama, then I have a lot of questions, and I'm also extremely angry at why haven't we tapped into that for the podcast. I'm sure he loves Star Wars. He's an American, right?
Well, is he? I
well,
think that
we're
was
not.
Up for debate.
Yeah, that's up for debate. Still pending. You know, however many 12 years later, we're still not sure whether he's an American citizen or not. So, still under investigation for that. But guys, I am joined. I am Michael Canterbury. Let me introduce my humble self, your host of this humble podcast, and I am joined at the table. Holly, introduce yourself. You already have a little bit, but how you doing? How's 2021 treating you? This is something I want to ask you guys. Do you have any resolutions for this year? And if so, how are they going already?
Oh my God. Okay, so if I'm going to introduce myself.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Holly.
I'm
29 years old.
Yeah, 29.
21? You like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm 21 years old. This is my first beer.
Hey, at least you're 21.
I have so many resolutions.
Okay.
I have like a whole list, and usually I'm not a big like New Year's resolutions person because I'm like, my resolutions is like right out the door.
Yeah.
But
what are a couple of them?
Okay, a couple of them is I want to read 24 books this year.
Wow. It's a lot of books.
Yeah.
You're on track so far.
So far I am.
Yeah.
I'm on my second book of the month. And then I have a running goal.
Okay.
I want to double the miles that I run this year, from last year. Mm-hmm. I won't disclose what those are because I didn't do a good job of running last year.
Yeah, Holly's so ashamed to only run like 6 miles casually a day. Like, it's stupid.
Okay, but those are my two big goals, and I think that it's achievable.
Well, Holly, you're doing a hell of a job. We're 2 weeks in, and a lot of people give up on those resolutions by now. I know I've given up on a few. But, folks, we're also joined via Skype. Our always informational, knowledgeable, handsome, maybe a Scott Avett, actually a Seth Avett doppelganger. Looks a little bit like Scott. Lucas Elder. Luke, any resolutions that you're working on 2 weeks into this new year?
Mostly to make it to 2022 is my main resolution. I don't have any specific ones. I am on my second book of the year as well, though. I did cheat a little bit. That I read A Test of Courage, which is like a middle grade reader. It was a quick breezy read over a few days. So, you know, if I keep picking up books for middle schoolers, I'm sure I'll read a lot.
Hey, that's okay.
It counts.
And we're going to get to that one. At some point in the podcast because I also want to read it. Artwork looks amazing.
I think Michael's resolution for 2021 is to finish the Thrawn book he's been reading.
I'm 30 pages to go. I was so tired last night. I was like, I should try to push through, but I'm like, I'm going to miss the ending. So I am almost done with Chaos Rising. So I'm going to be ready for that second of this trilogy when it comes out. But Luke, any other resolutions that you're working on? This is a big reading podcast, so it's going to be a lot of the resolutions. Anything else? Any personal resolutions that maybe you'd like to share with the world that you haven't even shared with your family? Ooh. Put them on the spot.
to look, sound, and act more like Scott Avett, because I think that would That would really help me with the wife. You know, keep the fire burning.
Here's my question. I have a couple of other friends that are huge Avett Brothers fans, as are we. Another couple, the husband really into Seth Avett, the wife really into Scott Avett. Is that what I'm hearing is in the elder household as well, Luke?
No, we're a double Scott house.
Okay, that's fair. I'm a double Scott man myself. Like I love Scott so much it's like two people are loving him. So but I do love Seth as well. You got to have Seth. They wouldn't be the Avett Brothers if it wasn't. Holly,
it would just
team Seth or Scott.
I mean, I don't.
Who do you stand?
I don't know. Okay, guys. I like the Avett Brothers. I just if you pointed, no, don't mute me. I have things to say.
Well, not about the Avett Brothers, apparently.
And it's this.
Yeah.
If you asked me to tell you which was which, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Wow.
So I cannot answer your question. And I've even watched Judd Apatow's documentary, and I still don't remember.
I'm trying not to be offended.
Which one's married to the actress from Dexter?
Seth.
Oh yeah, I like Seth. I'm a big Seth fan then.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We got to even it out a little bit in this household. That's fine. Guys, but if you haven't noticed, we're big fans on this podcast of the Avett Brothers. Avets, if you're listening, we'd love to come down to North Carolina, hang out with you guys. Maybe we can do a little jam session. Luke can pick up the banjo, I can pick up the sixth string, and we can play a little bit. Holly has a lovely singing voice. Maybe she can do some singing. Holly, why don't you share the voice with the world now?
No. But I did tell Michael earlier that I think I'm going to make a really big purchase. I'm going to buy a harp.
Oh, wow.
Don't understand the logic. She showed me this chick playing harp, and it was amazing. And she's like, wow.
Like one of the big ones?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It would be three times your size.
Guys, okay, listen.
Yeah.
Okay, my other 2021 resolution is I want to learn how to play an instrument. And Michael said I can't learn how to play the fiddle because you have to start young.
It's not that you can't. It's just one of those instruments where it's almost required that you start young. I've literally never met anyone that started violin after elementary school.
I think that's just in general with playing instruments. I picked up banjo, which was my first instrument, at like age 26, and I've never been very good, and I think that's part of it.
Yeah, but a lot of it's like dedication too, right? Like I also picked up some stuff after, and it's just like I can like play generally for it. It's not like pretty. I can do rhythm guitar for you, nothing else. But the violin, not bad. I can fiddle around. I've been playing it since 4th grade, but yeah, it is since Holly's like, okay, chump.
He says I've been doing this since 4th grade.
I have.
Folks,
you don't believe
he's been doing this since 4th grade.
Okay, I'm gonna call up Mom, and she can confirm it. Mama,
call your mom right now.
How long I been fiddling? No, my mom isn't, and she
that
doesn't
would be
live
so
here,
funny.
so.
You should call her. Just say, Mom, real quick question for the podcast.
Mom,
Rose, listen.
Yeah,
we gotta know.
No need to worry. You're live on the podcast. I got a question. It's not personal,
guys. I have to tell you. We're talking about resolutions. This is my last
a great
one.
introduction. 11-minute introduction. Let's do it. Yep.
I have one more resolution, and I want to learn more words.
Wow.
And then I'm going to use them on the podcast.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, why not?
So I downloaded Words with Friends, and I play with my grandma and some strangers on the internet. And every day it pops up, and it's like, here's the word of the day. And some of those words I have never heard of.
Let's just say, folks, Grandma is kicking Ollie's ass right now. So way to go, Granny. Whooping it. Guys, welcome. Off to a hot start here in 2021. A nice discussion last week. This week, I want to continue that ride of hope. And we do have some resolutions for the podcast. I'm not going to share them all now, but one of them is to have even more fun than we've been having, okay? And it starts with doing our latest installment of Hyperspace Inquiries. I will just say that I am the most prepared for this installment of Hyperspace Inquiries. I think Luke is going to probably think of a couple off the cuff. Holly, did you prepare for the inquiries?
I have 3 questions.
She has 3, more than I have, actually. Okay.
Oh, so who was the most prepared?
You were the most prepared. I stand corrected.
They might not be good ones, but we'll see.
That's okay. Guys, Hyperspace Inquiries are just a fun moment to just sit with your friends. You're going through hyperspace for a couple minutes. Ask fun questions. What are you dying to know from your closest friends when, you may get an answer right before you die in the vacuum of space. You never know. You might hit a rogue asteroid in a hyperspace lane. You never know. We know in the High Republic that kind of stuff can happen. So get those questions out. Ask folks there what you've always wanted to ask them.
Oh.
Yeah.
People should send us the questions and we can read them on the podcast.
I think that's a fantastic idea, Holly.
Thank you.
We would be much more prepared then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So email us your questions and we'll say them on the podcast.
Okay. Well, Holly, let's start with you then, because we'll go to you, and I got to open my phone here to get my questions. It's like, I don't recognize your face, Canterbury. Let's go to you first. We'll go to me, and then we'll give time for Luke to do his question. So ask all your questions, Holly, and then I'll do all mine. And if Luke has some, we'll do him, or we'll, shut down the hyperdrive.
Okay. Well, I have to preface this with I wasn't sure what kind of questions to do, so I just picked them based off The Mandalorian.
Oh, that's
so
okay.
all of these are just like Mandalorian
That's
related
okay.
questions.
Well, hold on. I got to prep the hyperdrive. I also disclosed that one of my questions may already be on the record of Flying Casual, but it's always good to just kind of revisit that record and make sure that we stand where we still stood.
Or we don't.
9 months ago. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and prep the hyperdrive here, and away we go. Holly, first question.
Okay. Question number 1. You need a treat. Do you eat a suga or a live frog? Go.
Oh, Suga. Luke?
Suga.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so that wasn't that complicated. Okay, question number 2. Beskar spear or Darksaber?
Oh, Darksaber for sure. Luke?
Yeah, I gotta go Darksaber.
I went with the Beskar steel.
Wow,
Spear.
you're boring.
No. Okay, last question. Would you rather go into the cave of ice spiders or go into the cave of the crate dragon?
Oh, crate dragon, hands down. I don't want anything to do with any kind of spider. Iowa bog, frozen spiders. I don't give a shit. I don't want any part of it. Luke?
That's a tough call because the ice spiders, there's so
Ew.
many of them.
Ugh.
But they're not individually as scary as the crate dragon to me. So I'm gonna lean ice spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ice spiders on this one too.
I just feel like I would freeze in fear, not even cold, and be paralyzed. They'd kill me all.
Well, I think that my
kill
problem
me.
is that I thought that I would be too good of friends with the crate dragon. I'd try to befriend it and then it would eat me. So
That's fair.
Moving
That's
on.
fair. Moving on to Michael's questions, guys. This may be the one that was on record, but we're going to revisit again. Holly, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Star Wars.
Oh, wow. That feel like that just hugely exposed. Luke, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I'm having deja vu. I think this happened.
Well,
before.
it's not bad to go back on the record.
Star Wars on a Star Wars podcast.
You better hope it is. You better hope it is. Yeah, Star Wars for me, emphatically, the only member of the podcast to say it. So glad we have it on the record twice. For those of you who missed it, it was a prior episode long ago. Holly, if you're stranded on Octu with nothing else to eat, would you eat a porg?
I would not. I'm a vegetarian. Thank you.
I'm talking like there's nothing else to eat.
No, I
like
wouldn't.
literally, not sand. You can't eat a leaf. Like, and the porg is your only survival.
I
You wouldn't.
understand.
Porg or death.
Yeah, or death.
Look,
Porg or death.
no, death.
Death. Luke.
Yeah, try
Yeah, I'd
porg.
eat the shit out of the pork too.
Do you guys not remember it? Okay.
Oh, it's cool.
Chewy with the porg.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. But hey, you got to survive, and I am, I'm humbled by your devotion to the vegetarianism for not surviving.
Hey, you
Okay,
wanted
yeah.
conviction.
Amen. Luke, any questions that you're dying to ask in hyperspace as we come to our near destination?
The only thing I've thought of is the PG version of it I've learned from 30 Rock is marry, boff, kill. The boff being the PG version of this. Familiar with this
I don't
concept?
think so.
You get 3 people, and you have to choose one to marry, one to fornicate
Okay.
with. That's the
Okay.
boffing part. And one to kill.
Okay. Interesting. I like
Okay.
this. This could go a lot of ways.
Oh God.
Anakin, Kylo,
Oh
Luke.
jeez.
Jesus.
You first.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh my God. So marry, screw, or kill. And it's Luke, Ben, and who else?
He said Kylo.
Kylo
there's a
and
distinction
who was the
there.
third one?
Anakin.
Oh God, Jesus, I would probably marry Luke because I think he'd be devout, to me. I'd probably, I don't know, probably bone Anakin for the power. Probably be a nice, vigorous bone, and then Ben, I'd probably have to kill him because you can't trust him.
Oh my God.
Holly,
Okay, first of all, no surprise, I would absolutely 100% kill Anakin.
I thought you were going to say
Goodbye.
bone and marry him.
And it's
but
also
okay.
the word is boff. I would
Boff.
boff
Yeah, sorry.
Kylo, and then I would marry Luke. I agree. Luke Skywalker just seems like good husband material.
Amen. I could, yeah, unless he's on Hawk too. But
I
maybe
mean,
then even.
hey, you know what?
Yeah, I lean more the Holly direction. It'd be hard to turn down Kylo, so it'd be a good one night stand, and then Luke's really the one you settle down with for sure.
I just feel like if you boff Anakin, he's going to start having dreams about you, and then he's going to kill you before you can kill him.
Great point. Maybe if you want it to be over with quickly and you don't want to actually stay in the relationship, he just kills you. Maybe that's how it works.
God, he's like that creepy, possessive boyfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's crazy. I love that question, guys. And we're coming out of hyperspace, so we've reached our destination now. But that was a fun one. I love the question because, that makes you think. I never typically think about who I would marry or boff in Star Wars. So that's
I really thought you were just going to say it makes you think. And then you said, I never typically think. And I thought you were just going to leave it at that.
Well, yeah, probably should have. But I know who I want to kill in Star Wars, but not the other two. Never really put much thought to it.
That's fair.
Guys, we are talking about the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming to Disney Plus sometime in the near future. What, 2022 or something like that at this point? We're not really sure. But there was an interview the past couple of days that's got some people talking. I think it's been mentioned, in prior discussions, not much in detail. But Liam Neeson had a discussion with Collider the other day. They were talking to him for his upcoming movie, The Marksman, which, no, we're not talking about The Marksman here. But Collider asked Liam Neeson, with the information we have with the upcoming Obi-Wan series, they asked him whether he'd reprise his role as Qui-Gon in this upcoming series. And Liam simply smiled and said, sure, I'd be up for that, yeah. Now, Holly, it seems like it makes sense. We're tapping into our beloved actors from the prequel trilogy here with Hayden and Ewan. So why not bring back this Jedi Master who has this newfound knowledge of the Force and in this netherworld, and he's still learning as he goes? But why not bring him back? Simply even maybe for his voice, right? So my question is he coming back? Is this Liam being just, kind of subtle and I'm keeping my mouth shut? That's all they said in the article. They didn't go into any further detail about it. Didn't ask for anything concrete. But is it going to happen, Holly?
I don't know. I can say that I would like for it to happen. I also really, really like Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon's like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I would love to believe that he would, even if it's just his voice, like you said, he just can speak through the Force to Obi-Wan. We don't even have to get into him actually appearing in front of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he will.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would make sense based on what we know. I guess, it feels like Obi-Wan has been talking to Qui-Gon through the Force the entire time he's on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So I think it would make sense.
Definitely.
Because I think it would be hard to tell Obi-Wan's story without Qui-Gon being in it.
So you're a fan. You're a fan of the idea.
Yeah.
Because I hope so, because that's what we're going to talk about. Luke, what's the likelihood that Liam's coming back? It seems like if the team's getting back together, why the hell not? This is only a win for him, I would assume. You think it's going to happen?
I want it to happen for sure. And I think if this was a Filoni-involved series, it would be no doubt, very little doubt that it will happen. Because when you look at, when you propose this as a topic, I started going through, where have we seen the ghost of Qui-Gon in different areas. There's the deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith where he communes with Yoda, and then there's episodes of the Clone Wars where he appears in the Mortis arc in particular, and then in Yoda's arc in season 6. He appears to Obi-Wan, he appears to Anakin, he appears to Yoda. So I would think, like, yeah, if Filoni was doing this series, like, he would definitely work it in. Filoni's not directly involved with this one, so I'm not going to make a guarantee, but I think it's still greater than 50% chance. And it just seems to work. It's a fantastic character that we unfortunately haven't had enough screen time with. I don't think there's anyone who would disagree with that. Widely admired character. So I think, yeah, you got to bring him in. And Liam Neeson, I think, is game. Like he said, he's game, and I think he means it. And so, yeah, I think you make it happen. But shaded a little bit since it's not Filoni, but I think they'll get him in there.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of this idea. I mean, I think we all got a little distracted by Hayden Christensen coming back, and we're like, wait, what? Like, this changes so much. Like, what does it change? What could it possibly fix? Which is another discussion that we're going to have another day. A lot to talk about with this Obi-Wan series, and I'd like to dig deep into it. But we are focused on Qui-Gon here, so I'm a huge fan of the idea. And like Luke, thinking about this, reading this article, I was like, okay, so let's go back to the material. Like Luke mentioned, some references in the Clone Wars. We actually see Qui-Gon presenting himself to in the Mortis in the Mortis arc there for Obi-Wan, and we kind of have those references, but we also have references in the Star Wars mainline from 2016. We also have a couple stories that reference Qui-Gon in the first From a Certain Point of View book. So I thought, why not go to those stories and let's see what we know about the interactions that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are having, because it seems like that's what we're going to get. If we know at the end of episode 3, Yoda says, training for you I have on Tatooine from an old friend, from an old master. And he says Qui-Gon emphatically. And we know that at the end, shortly after the end of episode 3, that Yoda and Obi-Wan did some training to learn those initial phases of what Qui-Gon went through. Maybe not necessarily kind of transforming, themselves physically in the world after death, but going into that netherworld of the Force and being able to communicate. We know that that's something that they did pretty early on. And other things that we know with this Obi-Wan series is that it's taking place 10 years after the events of episode 3. So we've got some material around that time. We don't necessarily know the actual year, but in the 2016 line, we have some interactions with a younger, not very grayed Obi-Wan on Tatooine and things he's doing there, and some mild interactions with Qui-Gon there. But the biggest interactions we get are from Star Wars From a Certain Point of View, the first release of From a Certain Point of View. And it was a story written by Claudia Gray. And so I think it's some of the most telling stuff. We are going to kind of reference the comic books here in a bit, but I think this is some of the most telling stuff about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's interactions over the years, because they kind of highlight some of it. But this moment here that we're going to talk about actually takes place in episode 4. They're on Tatooine. The Jawas have just been killed. Luke realizes, well, if they've traced the droids back to here, then they've definitely traced them back home. And he runs off. And Obi-Wan in this moment, after this happens, calls out to Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon calls back. And he realizes that Qui-Gon, or that Obi-Wan, is a little scared right now. And he even tells him, you're afraid. And Qui-Gon says he knows why. The events taking place around them are clearer to him than they are to Obi-Wan. You seek your center, you need balance. So this moment, Obi-Wan's kind of calling out to him. It seems like it's probably something that he's done, these past 10 years or more. And so let's see here. Where's the good stuff that I've been wanting to get to? This moment, Obi-Wan's a little scared because this is the moment that he's been waiting for a really long time. And Qui-Gon proceeds to compliment Obi-Wan for his time here on Tatooine. And he says, let's see. Where does he say it? Anyone can fight, given a weapon and an enemy. Anyone can use a lightsaber, given due training or even good luck. But to stand and wait, to have so much patience and fortitude, that, Obi-Wan, is a greater achievement than you know. Few could have accomplished it. Fewer still could have done so without turning to darkness. Sometimes when Qui-Gon considers it, he is awed by his student's steadfastness. Every person Qui-Gon ever truly loved, Anakin, Satine, Padme, and Qui-Gon himself, came to a terrible end. 3 of them died before his eyes. The other fell to a fate so bleak that death would have been a gift. The Jedi Order that provided the entire framework for Obi-Wan's life was consumed by betrayal and slaughter. Every step of this long, unfulfilling journey is one Obi-Wan had to take alone, and yet he never faltered. As the rest of the galaxy burned, his path remained true. It is the kind of victory that most people never recognize, and yet the bedrock all goodness is built upon. So he is really complimenting Obi-Wan on his mission here. It's one of the best things he's ever done. People, I mean, in circumstances like his, we've seen people fail. Anakin, very similar circumstance, failed. But he says even Obi-Wan doesn't see it. And Obi-Wan responds, "You see me in a kinder light than most would, old friend." Qui-Gon says, "I owe you that after all. I'm the one who failed you." Failed me? This is one of the biggest revelations, I think, from this story is it says here, they have never spoken of this. Not once in all Qui-Gon's journeys into the mortal realm to commune with him. This is primarily because Qui-Gon thought his mistake so wretched, so obvious, that Obi-Wan had wanted to spare him any discussion of it. Yet here, too, he has failed to do his Padawan justice. Luke, I find it hard to believe that for over a decade, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan have been communing, but haven't really talked about what's happened in the past. They all of the failures that both of them have kind of gone through and experienced is nothing that they've talked about. We know that's a huge revelation that Luke has in the future. But in this kind of netherworld of the Force, it says in the story that Qui-Gon can, obviously sees more than the mortal folks do at this point, can see further into the future, has more perspective, but something that they never talked about for this failure that they both experienced. Are you surprised by that?
I don't know. That's not a great answer.
It's a loaded question.
I think, yeah. And when I approach that story, it's a fantastic story. But I think things like from a certain point of view in the canon are, I think, the most likely, other than like comics, to maybe be overwritten on the big screen. So this was an amazing example of the way that Qui-Gon as a Force Ghost can be used, and that Claudia Gray wrote beautifully, and I think is probably the best story in that from a certain point of view, in my opinion. But I see it more as like a guidepost of what that might be on the screen, that interaction, rather than a hard and fast rule about what did or didn't happen between the two of them. So I could easily see that sort of being overwritten in the Kenobi series, which is taking place before episode 4. So it doesn't make sense to me if they were communing regularly throughout this time that this sort of thing wouldn't have come up. I think it's just powerful for this story, but I think something that will easily be overwritten because you have to have, if you have Qui-Gon in the Kenobi series, they have to talk about the biggest issues they've both faced, or else it's like, what are they just talking about? The weather? Or like, it's still Still pretty dry here on Tatooine. Hey,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan.
That's what I was thinking too. Like he learns pretty quickly how to kind of become one with the Force, like Qui-Gon has, and Qui-Gon states throughout here like there's more to it. You know, it takes years to kind of, like, even in old age and death, there's still so much to learn. So there's so much training to still hold. But you're right. Like I find it hard to believe that this is a topic that never came up. But but then again, the fact that Qui-Gon has been watching Obi-Wan go through this and just being alone and having experienced all these things, maybe he's just kind of doing him a favor by not saying, you know what, I failed and you failed. Maybe that's it, Holly. Maybe he's trying to just have a little remorse for the guys on this desert planet. And maybe in due time he'll kind of learn what he needs, but it is a little odd, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I read this story twice tonight. I feel like this is a different Obi-Wan than the Obi-Wan that we may see in the Obi-Wan series. I think earlier, Michael, I was even saying that to you. I don't know. This just doesn't feel like the Obi-Wan that I would see in the series.
Really? Why?
Oh, I don't know. Because it's not like the super dark and depressed Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I mean, we did, and that's, you were mentioning, sorry, I'm kind of scrolling through the book while you guys are talking. You were mentioning, because we read Time of Death by Cavan Scott several months back, that short story of Obi-Wan's final moments. And you're right, there was a lot of darkness there. He mentions, he's like, I can feel the darkness. Like, there's temptation there. There's confusion there. He calls out to his masters and says, you didn't prepare me for this. So you're right. Just because this is likely hours before that, it kind of does at times seem like two different characters. So I can totally see what you're saying. And even in the comics, so I had Holly read some of the 2016 mainline to just kind of see what Obi-Wan's going through, probably around the time period that we'll be seeing in the show. And he seems funny at times. There is some darkness, and he's like, God, I have nothing to do here. And he'll talk to Qui-Gon a little bit, but I've got nothing to do here. But in the end, after he kind of realizes, yeah, I'm kind of stuck here, but that doesn't mean I can't be a Jedi. I can't go out and flaunt my laser sword, but like I can still do good. And he does so through small actions and saving other people.
Yeah.
But
and I think that I think that there's a lot to be said for the style of writing and dialogue that's in comics versus the dialogue and writing that we get in short stories, and then again that kind of writing that we see in TV shows. So the writing, they all have different purposes, and I think that's something that we need to keep in mind especially when the Obi-Wan series comes out. I feel like it's going to be very hard to like say what I just said, where it's, this version of Obi-Wan at the same time in the comics is so different than the Obi-Wan that we get in the TV show, but we're getting more depth to the character. At least I hope we're getting more depth to the character in the TV show.
yeah.
And so I guess I would like to see more of these interactions. To bring it back to Qui-Gon, I would like to see more of these conversations that he's having with Qui-Gon. And like Luke was saying earlier, it would make sense to see more of that happening, because I think that there's a lot of discovery. And in these stories, Qui-Gon mentions, Obi-Wan still has so much to learn, and Obi-Wan's kind of struggling with that. Qui-Gon even still calls him Padawan, because he recognizes, there's so much more that he has to learn. And even though he's almost at the end of his physical life, it still goes on after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally love what you guys are saying. And there's just so much good stuff in this story. I love that Claudia Gray wrote this, and it gives us some insight, but I'm like, did you have any idea that you wanted to do Obi-Wan show? Because if you did, maybe we shouldn't have got this. Maybe we should have waited. And like Luke said, also to write a short story like this, you have to kind of have some big moments for these to have really any meaning behind them. But that's why I like them so much, because they are short. They're kind of to the point, but they have really large and just good depth to them to where it makes it interesting in 6 pages.
And in 6 pages, I mean,
yeah,
you do feel for all these characters
Yeah.
for different reasons. And, you know, you get some feelings that you wouldn't have gotten from the movies, which I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, these are things that you wouldn't, and it's generating such a good discussion. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we read the story, it's 6 pages long. The time of death or whatever that other story
That
is
was
isn't much
awesome.
longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can generate a 45-minute discussion just in those 6 pages. So I think there's a lot to be said about that too. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. And I have some questions here that I'm going to pose to these guys in a moment, but I want to read for you some more of this because it's, guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't picked this up, it's epic. And I love these short stories. That's why I love comics so much. I love these as well. But Qui-Gon goes on to tell him, so they're fleshing this out. It's like, let's talk about this because, you know, I know that you're going to die. I mean, he doesn't say that, but Qui-Gon foresees Obi-Wan's death coming soon. And so maybe that kind of vision and that feelings kind of moved him to, in this moment, just be like, we gotta talk about, like, these are things that we need to talk about. But he says, you weren't ready to be a Jedi Master, Qui-Gon admits. You hadn't even been knighted when I forced you to promise to train Anakin. Teaching a student so powerful, so old, so unused to our ways, that might have been beyond the reach of the greatest of us. Which is, I mean, you're putting a lot on Obi-Wan's shoulders. To lay that burden at your feet when you were hardly more than a boy. And Obi-Wan responds, Anakin became a Jedi Knight. Obi-Wan interjects, a thread of steel in his voice. He served valiantly in the Clone Wars. His fall to darkness was more his choice than anyone else's failure. Yes, I bear some responsibility, and perhaps you do too. But Anakin had the training and the wisdom to choose a better path. He did not. It's just such a freaking telling moment there. And I think, I don't know. I think we could see this play out in the show. And I've talked about this before. I want to see Obi-Wan in a dark place. I want to see him contemplating with what he's done. And maybe here we see some kind of resolution after going through that and saying, you know what? I did all I can do. And maybe it's this new hope. Maybe it is this Luke Skywalker that I've been watching that's allowing him to get to that point. Maybe it took Luke taking the first steps to say, you know what? I've accepted that I had some problems, but ultimately it was Anakin's failure. And so I'm interested. Luke, there's no mention of Vader here, just Anakin's fall. So I can only imagine Obi-Wan finding this out and then talking to Qui-Gon about this. I mean, I can't imagine really how this is going to go because I feel like Qui-Gon has to know at this point who Vader is. He has to. But Obi-Wan obviously does as well. He tells Luke who he is. But what do you think that moment's like, man? Is this what absolutely is learning that Anakin survived as Darth Vader? Is this what's going to kind of lead Obi-Wan to say, you know what? I did all I could. This is what he's become. this treacherous, being the hand of the Emperor. This is what he's become. There's nobody could have saved him. Like, could it be him learning that Anakin has become Darth Vader, or that he survived, I guess I should say? Could that be what kind of helps Obi-Wan kind of cope with this?
I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but that strikes me as something really powerful to see on screen. Because Obi-Wan presumably walks away from the lava shore in Revenge of the Sith thinking Anakin's going to perish. He doesn't have the heart to really finish the job, but I think he believes he's not going to come out of it in that moment when he walks away. So when does he learn, though? Because this series, from what it's been told, will take place around 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So it seems like that's maybe too long for him to have not known. Yeah. But maybe we'll get some kind of flashback to when he learns that, oh, wait, no, Anakin did survive, and here's what he's become. That's a really powerful moment that I hope to see in some form or another in the series. And like talking about Obi-Wan's mental state, it's amazing he's not completely mad by the time of A New
Yeah.
Hope. And hopefully it's Qui-Gon who's helped him through it, and not communing with Qui-Gon throughout this time period has hopefully kept him a little sane. And I hope that he has some connection with Yoda still, even though they're not in the same physical location, because that seems really important to me. Because of all the characters in Star Wars, Obi-Wan may only be rivaled by Leia in terms of the amount of tragedy that befalls them. When you think of the death of his master, the death of his love in Satine, the fall of his Padawan, it just the death of his good friend Padme, one after the other. Like, I think only Leia, with the destruction of her entire planet and losing her husband and her son to the dark side, can rival that a level of suffering in the story. So it's amazing he's not just a complete lunatic by the time of the
And like,
Yeah.
not even only that, but then he goes and he isolates himself on Tatooine. He wants to be involved with Luke, and he consistently is telling himself, I have nothing to do. I should be training this boy.
Yeah.
And he watches him from afar, and he intervenes when he can, and he does things for Luke until, Owen tells him, don't do that, stay away from us, you're crazy, like you're gonna turn him to the dark side, or whatever he's telling him.
Everyone pretty much around you dies. That's pretty
like,
much what he said. Yeah.
Stay away from our family, stay away from this child. And Luke is almost the only thing that Obi-Wan has left, and he can't even be around him. I mean, it's tragic. He refers to him as crazy old Ben, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you see him, Ben Kenobi, aging in the desert by himself. Seemingly, if you walked by and you saw him meditating outside, this crazy old man's talking to himself. Really, he's having conversations with Qui-Gon, but he's always talking to Qui-Gon. Whether Qui-Gon is talking back or not, we don't know.
Yeah.
But in the comics and these stories, he's constantly having these conversations and reaching out to Qui-Gon and just talking.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like, I'm walking through the desert. I'm trying to find some water. I found this dark melon that has milk in it. Like, whatever it is, like, he's always narrating what he's doing to Qui-Gon. And that can come across as crazy. So I guess to some people, like, it might be true, like, crazy old Ben, like, he truly is crazy.
Yeah, that's what his uncle led him to believe, and even I'll try to see if I can get to it here in a second, but Obi-Wan even explains to Qui-Gon that he hasn't, told Luke about his father and who he is, and Qui-Gon's like, yeah, you made the right decision. He would reject you if you just got to know this kid. If you would have thrown all this on him, he would have thought you were crazy. You would have lived up to his expectations. Everything that everyone would have told you about crazy Ben Kenobi would have just been solidified there in that moment. So it's cool that he's telling that to Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's reassuring him, you made the right decision. Like, I've seen the future. I've seen somewhat of Luke's future. He doesn't go into detail, but that there is more for him. That this isn't the end. That when he goes and tries to see if Aunt Peru and Uncle Owen are okay, that he's going to survive that, and he has a future. And yeah, I think a lot of Obi-Wan's, like, yeah, because he's been through so much, and then you're going. He even makes a joke in one of the mainline comics. He's out walking in the Dune Sea, just saved somebody or something. He's like, why couldn't we have been sent to hide on a planet that has just like hot springs or something? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, he's really funny, and I think that's a difference you're gonna see. We see it in the comics. The art of the comics makes it look like it's around 10 years after that. That's around the time period that we're gonna see, and he is a little more optimistic. Like I said, in every issue, he's just kind of like, there's not much to do here, but then he ends up saving Jawas, or doing these little like saving people from being taxed by Jabba the Hutt. Like, he does these things, which we'll talk about in later episodes, but he seems to kind of rise up to the occasion, and then in the end, it kind of shows Obi-Wan lighting his laser sword and being like, but I'm still a Jedi. Like, I still have hope, and seeing Luke Skywalker, like, gives me that hope. But what really turns Obi-Wan to this kind of this? He's been living a hermit's life, but in the beginning, he kind of says like, I don't know how to be a Jedi like anymore. I've been a hermit longer than I have a Jedi. I don't know how to be that anymore. And Qui-Gon's understanding, he's like, you've adapted, you've had to survive. But I think it is a testament to Qui-Gon being there. And for so many years, I've wondered, like, what led Qui-Gon to want to learn this power, you know? Like, he's always been curious about other aspects of the Force that the Jedi that we know really weren't. And so obviously that's kind of led him to this path of becoming one with this, like, netherworld of the Force. But to then, like, be able to, like, commune in the flesh almost. He calls it, like, he can almost feel when he presents himself like his flesh wrapping around bones. And he can smell the burning of the Jawas. Like, he is interacting with his environments. He's nodding. Like, he does these things, and he does them knowingly. But what pushed him to kind of do that? And it was the love of Obi-Wan. And because Obi-Wan mentions to him, he's like, he looks differently than he's ever seen him. He says, you're very nearly corporeal. I've never seen you appear like this. Obi-Wan says, it's a matter of learning to both claim the physical world and detach oneself from it, Qui-Gon says. He had not struggled towards that goal at first. Only after Anakin's fall did he push himself to emerge fully. It was the work of very nearly a decade. This he did for Obi-Wan. At least his Padawan did not have to spend his years in the desert entirely alone. It is sad as shit, and I love it. But he did it for Obi-Wan. Just that. He did not want maybe Obi-Wan is responding in those comics more. Or maybe he's just now, he's seeing what Obi-Wan's going through, right? Maybe at first, those first couple years, Obi-Wan's doing fine. It's going to be good. This is my training. I need to learn these things. But then Qui-Gon says it's not enough. He's going to need me. I feel so bad that I didn't get to finish his training, that I put this burden on him. He can't be alone. Obi-Wan is our last hope. He doesn't say that, but I mean, if Obi-Wan fails, there is no Star Wars.
I mean, Obi-Wan, he's our only hope.
He is our only hope. It's insane. So there's another moment. If we turn to text, this is one of the questions I have. But I turned to the text to see if I could find something about this. But in issue 15 of the 2016 Star Wars mainline, Obi-Wan is sitting cross-legged in the sand, about to save some Jawas from a raid of Tusken Raiders. But he speaks to Qui-Gon and he says, "There's still hope, Master Qui-Gon. You thought Anakin was the chosen one. Perhaps in a way he was. If his son shows the same abilities, then just maybe... ... He doesn't finish his thought. So there's these little moments of discussion with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in these comics, and I'm glad they kind of left this open-ended, because this is the time period where Obi-Wan's out saving Jawas. He's saving, Tatooine villagers from insane, gangsters from Jabba. He's kind of this unknown hero here in the Dune Sea on Tatooine, fighting crime without a lightsaber. He wields it every once in a while, but every once in a while he'll talk to Qui-Gon. And I thought this was so fascinating, because my question, guys, is could Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus discuss this idea of the prophecy? It was such a prevalent part of their interactions in the in I should say the Phantom Menace, and in the prequel trilogy throughout. I mean, Anakin being the chosen one, but Qui-Gon was emphatic that Anakin was the chosen one. But you see, in this time period where Obi-Wan is likely going to be in the show, asking Obi-Wan, okay, maybe you're right from a certain point of view, but what if it's actually Luke? Luke Elder, are they going to have a conversation about, I mean, especially knowing that Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader is going to be in this? This has to be addressed, right?
Yeah, and it's a good point because I rewatched some of the scenes from the Mortis arc, and when Obi-Wan sees Qui-Gon on Mortis, Qui-Gon brings up the fact that he's the chosen one, that Anakin's the chosen one in that moment, and that's pre-fall. And in that Mortis episode, though, Obi-Wan says, he's so powerful, but he still struggles to find balance. And Qui-Gon says, this is Mortis is a dangerous place for him to be if he can't find the balance. So Qui-Gon knows it could sort of tip either way. So I don't think it will come as a complete shock to him that at some point or another that Anakin is consumed by the dark side. But I imagine that Qui-Gon will have more hope than Obi-Wan does, even because we know by the time of Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan, we've talked about this. Obi-Wan says, no, you have to kill him. That's the only way. That's what he tells Luke. But Qui-Gon seems like he's going to maintain faith in the chosen one prophecy, and that Anakin is the one to me. And it'll be, maybe a source of tension between the two of them. Because Obi-Wan, I think it's clear that he, at least by the time of the original trilogy, and maybe he works towards that over time, that there is no hope. And maybe it takes the second encounter with Vader for any little bit last bit of hope that he has to go away. So maybe he'll still have some in this series, and then we get the second encounter that they've teased is coming, and then it's really killed off at that point.
I think some contention between Master and Apprentice here would be welcome, and I think it makes sense. We know from Claudia Gray's novel Master and Apprentice, these guys butted heads a lot. You see it a little bit in The Phantom Menace, but they don't just exactly see eye to eye. A lot of, what Qui-Gon kind of spouts, even the council didn't really see eye to eye. And that's why he's not on the council. He's a master, but he's not on the council. So, Holly, are we going to get a discussion about the prophecy? Could Star Wars go as far as to say that maybe Anakin wasn't the chosen one? Maybe it is a source of contention where Qui-Gon says, have faith. You have to, I've seen it. And maybe Obi-Wan's been there on that hell planet, and maybe he learns that Anakin is this, he has survived as Darth Vader, and he says, no, it's impossible. He didn't even die, but look at him now. He still serves the Emperor, and he has for years. He's not the chosen. He's gone. It would make sense for them to maybe not see eye to eye on that, and maybe that's why here Obi-Wan is trying to convince him, hey, you know what? Maybe your interpretation was wrong. Maybe it's his son, and maybe through the Force and through Anakin, he's brought us Luke. Holly, could there be some contention?
I have a lot of thoughts about this.
Then please get them out on the podcast. Thank you.
First of all, I understand that George Lucas came out and said that Anakin is the chosen one, but I also understand that there's a lot of stuff that's happened in canon since then that makes that questionable.
Yeah.
And so personally, this is just me, and I've said this before, and people didn't agree with me, and that's fine. But I actually don't think that Anakin is necessarily the chosen one.
Yeah.
So something that kind of struck me in some of the comics that we read about Obi-Wan and the mainline ones that we read is there's a moment where he's thinking to himself about how he doesn't know how to be a Jedi anymore.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment about how he's the last of his kind. He's the last Jedi. And then he starts going into thinking about all this stuff with Luke, and we hear this conversation between him and Qui-Gon about, Anakin, the chosen one, but maybe Luke has this role to play in this as well, and Anakin was the chosen one, but maybe for a different reason. And it just really made me think it could be totally coincidental, but to me, it just makes it even more beautiful that we have The Last Jedi where it's Luke, because I kind of feel like that's what Obi-Wan was thinking when he was on Tatooine, is that Obi-Wan was the last Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about that seems kind of poetic to me.
Yeah.
But I also was wondering, like, how far into the future, I want to know, can Qui-Gon see?
Yeah, me too.
Because he sees Obi-Wan's death. I am inclined to believe that he also knows that Anakin turned into Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
We know from reading that time of the Kevin Scott short in this that Obi-Wan foresaw some of the events in the sequel trilogy where he saw Han Solo falling. He saw, I believe Kevin Scott was describing when Leia reached out to Ben or Kylo to turn Ben back to the light, and he saw her collapsing. And so I just am curious, even if Qui-Gon would have shared, we know that he didn't share any of Obi-Wan's fate with Obi-Wan, but I just like wonder if there was anything else that he knew that he would have shared with Obi-Wan, or if that he can't do that because that could have potentially impacted and changed fate.
It's like, are there restrictions in the netherworld? Are you not allowed to say certain things? But I think you're right. I don't want to influence this person because the future is always in motion. It's not always as it seems. We can use bits and pieces of what we see to kind of make decisions off of that. But to tell someone definitively this is what's going to happen could ultimately change that destiny. I think you're right.
Yeah, and that's something that we saw happen with Anakin. He gets stuck in this self-fulfilling prophecy where he was so terrified of this dream that he had. Yeah. He had the dream about his mom. He had the dreams about Padme that he kind of made those things, well, not so much his mom, but he made it come true, him losing Padme. It just wasn't exactly the way that was in his dream. And so we've seen what happens when you can kind of see visions of the future and then act on that to stop it, how it's kind of like, I don't know how much it actually changes the outcome.
Yeah.
But on one hand, I feel like we have to see them having a conversation about the prophecy. But then on the other hand, I'm like, will they be able to? Or is Qui-Gon thinking maybe we can't do that because that could change the actions that Obi-Wan takes and it could change like his destiny or other people's destinies, and can we have that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you were talking about when you're talking about, Obi-Wan feeling like he was the last of the Jedi. I think one thing that could really cause him to believe that Luke is the chosen one and believe it emphatically is that this is Qui-Gon's last mission. This is Obi-Wan's last mission. Sorry. I'm looking over the offspring of the chosen one, so to speak, and he's gone. And I think he really believes Anakin's gone at this point. So that I think he's kind of forcing himself to think, this is my last mission. This is all I have. This is all we have collectively, the universe that needs saving, but this is also all I have. Who am I going to pass this on to? This kid is showing everything. He looks, he flies, he does all these things like his father. He has to be the chosen one. This is destiny. I am here for a reason. There's a point of contention with Yoda and Obi-Wan in this very book of who is actually kind of the chosen one. Is it Yoda believes Leia's the one who should be trained?
Yeah, there is another.
There's another. They're communing somehow, too. Are we going to see that? I mean, how is that happening?
There's so much we don't know.
So, there's some contention there between him and Yoda that, Yoda thinks that Luke isn't ready, that he's clumsy, that he's, this and that. But Leia is. But Obi-Wan is emphatic that Luke is the chosen one. I am here to train him. This is going to happen. And now the moment's come, and he's terrified. And he needs Qui-Gon there to kind of just remind him why he's doing this. And it's incredible. I have no idea. Let me make some bold predictions. And they're not that bold. But I think you're going to see not an optimistic Obi-Wan. in the beginning of this series. But you're going to see that Obi-Wan's joking around. That, you know, he can still crack a couple jokes when he's fighting Tusken Raiders. It's actually really funny. The dialogue that he has with some of these people, it's hilarious. He fights a Wookiee bounty hunter.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
cracking jokes.
That was
It's hysterical. So I think you're going to see him fighting some crime. We could see Jabba the Hutt. Like, I mean, they have a set that they're using for the Book of Boba Fett. And they could probably do it here, too. But I think you're going to see that kind of, you know, there's still some hope. It even says it here. But Qui-Gon, there's still hope. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? What's Qui-Gon telling him that maybe he has to say, there's still hope, Master? Is Qui-Gon maybe professing some darkness? I don't know. But we have a kind of a hopeful Obi-Wan. I wouldn't even be surprised if time passes or we are really in a moment here in a climax where, you know, Obi-Wan knows his mission. He's doing the right thing. He's staying low. Owen's told him to F off. Like, you can't have contact with Luke. Well, I'm going to stay in the shadows and do some things. Cool. I'm communing with Qui-Gon. I'm training. Boom. Somehow he finds out Vader is still around. And then I think that is where you're going to see us switch. And a lot of what we read in the From a Certain Point of View book is going to make a lot of sense. Questioning, what am I doing? Like, who is the chosen one? Like, and that's when, you know, Qui-Gon comes in. It's like, we got to talk. Yeah, we've had some failures. Like, but I don't know. Holly, what do you think? Is this just going to be a depressed Obi-Wan that, you know, is just this hermit who's, you know, fighting thoughts of Anakin and his failures, or could we see a switch here? Maybe some new information, and then we kind of have a different Obi-Wan.
Well, I don't think that we can just see a depressed Obi-Wan who's like resigned to his life here in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I think we know, like, there always has to be some message.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something good that's going to come from the show, other than us getting, like, the cast of our dreams.
Yeah.
Fine. But I do hope that we get some insight from Qui-Gon. And this is just me. I'm kind of hoping that we at least get some references to Maul, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I truly don't feel like I have enough information about the show other than when it's set to really say, like, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I just know the things that I hope I see, and I'll go from there.
Luke, how about you? I mean, what's this roller coaster that we're gonna go on? A bold prediction from you.
Oh, a bold prediction. Oh my. I really don't know that I have any more. It's still so far away, isn't it?
It is.
Like,
Yeah.
That's why I thought we'd focus on Qui-Gon and just kind of see. But now I gotta know, because it feels like Qui-Gon could be a game changer here. Like, who is gonna tell Obi-Wan that Vader's still out there? I feel like that could flip a switch.
yeah, this time period is so rich with possibilities of characters, and not every character can show up in every show, right? But that's sort of the main thing we love to speculate about, is who will show up, and you know, season 2 of Mandalorian gave us so much of that you can't help but do it again, and do it with Cassian, and do it with everything. So that's always the question, is what connections will there be in these series? And I know some people will say, like, oh, it gets old if you just keep having, like, these cameos from these different characters over and over again, even if it's not the same character, but just the fact that you have so many different ones. But again, I think if they do it well, which so far they have in the Disney Plus era of things, you know, pulled off the Bo-Katan and Ahsoka and Luke, I think, really well. So as long as done it with care and for the right purpose, I think it works. So I'm open to whoever they can bring in, as long as it makes sense for the story that they're telling. and it's handled with care, and that you're not using these characters in a frivolous way, as a cameo in an Austin Powers movie, which I love, but it's a totally different thing. So yeah, just keep bringing the characters in, keep making the connections that it rewards us fans, and as long as it's not done in a silly way or insignificant way, then I think it works, and so keep going for it. So I'm open for all those. I don't know who and when and where, but just bring it on.
That's fair. Guys, we would really like to see Qui-Gon. How? Maybe not in the flesh, depending on kind of, timeline where we are, but you might hear a beautiful Liam Neeson, in his voice or however he's presenting himself. But we've got, a surprising amount of history here in this time period. So I really encourage you, go check out the journals of Ben Kenobi that are kind of thrown into several issues of the 2016 Star Wars mainline, so you have an idea of what Ben Kenobi's doing on Tatooine. We've kind of talked about it a little bit here, but kind of read it for yourself, and then so you have an idea of what we might be getting into, and then pick up those stories from Kevin Scott and Claudia Gray in the From a Certain Point of View book, and get a later idea of could we go right up to that point? I mean, could we have Ewan playing, an Alec Guinness-like character? Could some time pass? I think you could see a huge jump in time at the end. I really do. But what kind of interactions are we going to see with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon? It was a fascinating relationship to begin with, but a relationship that was cut short. And both of them had changed so much when they meet again. Qui-Gon in this other, in this netherworld of the Force, learning things that no one else has. And then Obi-Wan, having gone through so much, bearing the burden of the literal galaxy. In my eyes, Obi-Wan is very much like Superman. You just see him, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that's what I want to see. But a fascinating story from Claudia Gray about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon kind of coming to terms with that and discussing the past and those failures that we see Jedi learning far too late. It's far too late for them to learn about failure and how you need to pass on what you've learned. It's obviously an arc and a story for Luke Skywalker, and how the Jedi will be reborn, and hopefully they'll pass on that message. But sometimes it's too little, too late. But like we talked about here, it would be nice to kind of see that kind of fleshed out and played out over time in this Kenobi series that we're going to get. So if they have to kind of change things a little bit here, from what is a piece of canon, as far as we know, from a certain point of view, if we got to change it up a little bit to make it an interesting perspective on those interactions between the two, I'm down. But I want to know what you think. What do you want from Qui-Gon out of this, if he's going to be in it? How much? I mean, is it going to be too much if we have also Vader, and how does Vader's introduction here change this relationship? Like Luke said, could it be contentious? If Qui-Gon still believes he's the chosen one, and Luke's like, that guy, the guy, or Obi-Wan's like, that guy, the one who's in the machine? No, he's lost. There's no coming back for him. His son is who we need to protect. He's the chosen one. And maybe there's a disagreement there. Maybe they don't talk to each other for a while. It doesn't seem like Luke and Yoda had talked for a while after Luke had kind of isolated himself. I can't imagine Obi-Wan cutting himself off the Force, but it could happen. I actually am going to be very interested to see how a lot of people take a different take on Obi-Wan here. A darker Obi-Wan. Maybe an Obi-Wan that's kind of given up on hope. Just like Luke Skywalker did on Oct 2. So many people hated that Luke had to learn, that he had to hit rock bottom to build himself back up and be reminded of what his purpose was. Could we see that from Obi-Wan? Is that going to piss people off? To give Obi-Wan a little depth? He's seen more trauma than anyone. Of course we're going to see some of that from him. But how are fans going to react? I know I'm going to love it. gives these characters some depth and some character. It's great. Like we talk about, laser swords are awesome. You're probably not going to see him wield one much unless he fights Vader. That's a whole nother discussion. We're going to talk about it in another episode. But man, these stories, story of loss. Oh, we forget about Obi-Wan, the trials he's gone through, Satine, Anakin, the Order. He's lost everyone, and it's going to be interesting to see him play it out. And we know that Qui-Gon he's wanted to be there by his Padawan side, who that relationship was cut short, far too short, too soon. Wanting to make up for lost time, wanting to be there for him and try to guide him through it all. It's fascinating. I love these stories. It's why we podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy them as well. So I want to know, what are we going to see from Qui-Gon? Could he appear in the flesh, or are we just going to hear Liam Neeson? What's that relationship going to be like, guys? I'm fascinated. But check out these pieces of material. It's good stuff, and I think it'll be a nice introduction. You got plenty of time. I think we have till 2022 before this happens. So you have time to check those out to prepare yourself for what we're going to see in Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+. Guys, if you liked what you heard, if you're liking the podcast, go ahead and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate that. Reviews and ratings help with algorithms and all that good stuff to tell people that you're enjoying Flying Casual, so others can also do that. Share what you've learned. Pass on that message to your friends and family. Join the Facebook group. A lot of good stuff happening in our Flying Casual Facebook group as well. Check us out on all social media. Holly's in there killing on the social media. A lot funnier than I Holly's just kind of a social media guru. If it were me, guys, you'd probably get hardly any posts. And if they were, they would probably not be very funny. So I think I've come up with a couple funny ones lately, but Holly there on the socials, so hit us up there as well. But I appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week with another episode. Who knows what it's going to be? Could be talking about some more Obi-Wan and Vader. Who knows? But we appreciate you stopping by. We appreciate your support. Be safe out there. Take care of each other, and may the Force be with you always.